Hi everyone and welcome to my recent game collecting video from May to July, or actually just June and July because I don't think I bought any May releases this year. Not a huge amount of game releases during these summer months, but still a few, so let's go through them, starting with the June releases. So the Quintessential Quintuplets movie 5 Memories of My Time with You, which I got as limited edition. So it's a visual novel based on the Quintessential Quintuplets series, and even though the word movie is in the title, it's not much connected to the movie that was released just a little before this game. I haven't seen the movie myself yet, but from what I've heard, some minor spoilers of it. It has one scene towards the end that is also in the game as a prologue scene, but because you can make your own choices in the game, that scene might not follow just like it was in the movie. And rest of the game takes place 5 months later, when the characters travel to Okinawa to celebrate their graduation, so it's more like original story for the game for the most part. And the story is quite light-hearted. For the most part, you are simply traveling to different locations in Okinawa and spending time there and talking with the characters. And because there's not similar minigame as in the previous Quintessential Quintuplets visual novel, all the routes and endings are based on the dialogue choices that you make. And there's also some quite lovely scenes towards the end of the game, so yeah, I've been enjoying it. There's a couple minor problems, one being the same problem that I had with previous visual novel, which was that the main character, Futaro, is voice acted only in prologue and ending scenes, even though rest of the characters are voice acted in every single scene in the game. So that feels a little bit off for me, and it takes some of the enjoyment out of the game when one of the characters isn't voice acted for most of the game. And another minor problem is that the game is rather short. It only takes few hours to play through one of the routes, but I suppose that motivates at least me to play through more than one route. I originally thought I would only play through Yotsuba's route and be done with it, but because the game isn't very long, maybe I'll go back to it and play through the rest of the routes at some point. Another thing that kind of motivates me to play through the rest of the routes is that as an ending reward you actually get these short movie clips that are filmed at the real locations that you visit in the game. I feel like that was quite fun little addition as a reward. And it is quite fun to see the real locations that you visit in the game. Quite fun addition, especially compared to the previous visual novel, which took place in fictional deserted island. I felt like that was much more fun in this game to visit real locations. And next, Fire Emblem Musou, or Fire Emblem Warriors 3 Hopes, which I got as treasure box. These quite huge Koei limited editions. So it's a warrior style spin-off to the Fire Emblem Three Houses. I got mixed up So the original game was 3 houses and this one 3 hopes. And I was quite happily surprised with this game. For some reason I thought I was expecting it to be somewhat simple Musou style spin-off, like for example those Hyrule Warrior that was released. When was it released? Last year? That was somewhat simple and I was expecting this to be similarly somewhat simple game, but I was quite surprised because, for example, the story, it shares the same idea as the main game, where you choose between the 3 houses and follow different story depending on your choice, which gives you replay value for the game. And also, like, it takes a lot of mechanics from the main game, like this rock paper scissors style weapon weaknesses and so on, which kind of motivates you to pay attention which characters to choose for which mission, and also keep switching the characters instead of just focusing on one character. And I love how many playable characters there are in the game, and they all feel so different from each other. It's so much fun to see all those characters coming back from the main game. And also I've been enjoying the mission designs and gameplay and pretty much everything about the game. So yeah, I've been enjoying it. And it also makes me want to play through the main game again. So yeah, I've been enjoying that. And next, to July releases, starting with game that I actually mentioned in previous recent games videos when I was talking about Triangle Strategy, and back then I was wondering how do you pronounce this game's name, but based on the katakana writing I believe it's pronounced Life Alive. So I was completely mispronouncing the game. But anyway, so Life Alive, it's originally was made for Super Famicom, and it was not, back then it was not released in West, so it was quite niche title. I actually tried the Super Famicom version of the game, I believe like about 10 years ago, when I was starting to slowly learn Japanese. I played through one of the chapters that wasn't very story heavy, and I was fine with that, but when I started to play some of the more story heavy chapters, I felt like, okay, maybe my Japanese isn't good enough to play the game yet, but now finally it's time to play through the game again. So yeah, it's RPG in which you have these different chapters taking place in different time periods, and most of the chapters you can play in which order you ever want, and you even can leave the chapter that you are currently playing and choose different one to play instead, and then again go back to the chapter that you didn't finish yet, and so on. And each chapter also feels quite different compared to each other in both story and also in gameplay. For example, one of the chapters is very combat heavy, doesn't have much story, but on the other end, one of the chapters feels more like adventure or visual novel game with barely any combat. It feels like almost playing a different game when you choose different chapters. But the thing that connects these different chapters together is the same combat system. And I feel like the combat system is fine when you are playing like bosses, I feel like the combat system is fun there, but in chapters that have a lot of fights against basic enemies, the combat system starts to feel somewhat repetitive in there. So yeah, fun for the most part, but those more grindy segments feel a little bit too grindy at some point. But yeah, I've been enjoying the game. I have played about half of the chapters this far, and okay, maybe one thing that I am still wondering, are these chapters going to connect to each other story-wise at the end of the game? Because at least so far it seems like there's no connection at all between the chapters, and that feels a little bit off to some extent maybe. But yeah, for the most part I do enjoy it, and it feels very unique, especially considering it was originally made for Super Famicom, so it must have been very unique back then, because it still feels like very different gameplay experience compared to most of the RPGs. So yeah, I've been enjoying it so far. Can't wait to see rest of the chapters. And next, GrimGrimoire OnceMore. So another re-release of older games. This time one of the older Vanillaware games that was released 15 years ago. So it was like RTS released on PS2, and I actually completely missed this game when it was originally released. I think first Vanillaware game that I ever played was Odin Spear, which was released after this one, so I completely missed this game when it was originally released. Quite fun little detail is that there's the original PS2 Japanese cover used on the backside here. Fun little detail, and I believe I actually like the original cover more, because it shows more of the main characters instead of focusing on just one. But that might be just me. But anyway, so it's RTS on console, which always sounds a little bit scary idea, but I feel like Vanillaware did prove me wrong with 13 Sentinels, because I enjoyed that game quite a lot, even though it's RTS game on console. And I was so surprised to find out this is even more traditional RTS, and it was already made on PS2, so yeah, I was so surprised to find out how the gameplay works in this, because it is so traditional feeling RTS. For example, you build up your base and make these worker units to take over these mana crystals and start gathering resources, then make new buildings that make combat units, and upgrade those buildings to make your combat units more powerful, and then you defend your own base from enemy attacks and then start attacking your enemy bases. It feels like playing RTS but on console, which is quite rare to me. I'm used to playing those games on mouse and keyboard. So yeah, it feels quite traditional RTS. And the controls, even though they took some time to get used to, especially like choosing correct units and quickly giving commands, but after getting used to the controls, I feel like the game is completely fine and it's so much fun to play. So yeah, I'm so glad that they did re-release this game, because I would have completely missed it otherwise. And I've enjoyed it so much. I still have left all the challenge missions. I haven't played almost any of those. I've only played through the main story missions. But yeah, I do enjoy the game quite a lot, and also the character artwork in those story scenes. It's as amazing as you would expect from Vanillaware artwork. So yeah, if you like RTS games, definitely give it a try. And next is already the last game here, Xenoblade 3. I'm still very early on in this game. I've played only a little bit of it, but so far, from what I've seen, it is pretty much what I expect from Xenoblade game. The combat system is very similar to previous games, with this whole idea of auto-attacking, and you are simply focusing on positioning your character and timing your more special attacks. And the combat system is fine, even though I'm still not a huge fan of the idea of relying your party members positioning themselves correctly and also participating on those combo attacks between the party members. It's sometimes a little bit frustrating when your party members are not playing as optimal as possible, but I feel like the combat is still completely fine and it's fun to play. And story-wise, I feel like the beginning of the game started somewhat slowly. I feel like the prologue tried to introduce way too many side characters that you don't care about, and it also took way too much attention from the actual main characters. But as you play more of the game and also get introduced to the other half of the main heroes, the game starts to show more personality of the main heroes, and also the whole setting starts to get more interesting when you see both sides of the ongoing battle. So yeah, so far I've been enjoying it, even though I've played very little of it so far, but I am excited to see more of it now that the story is starting to get more interesting. And one thing that I am so glad about this game is that the whole, as far as I know, the whole gacha system of Xenoblade 2 seems to be off in this game. There doesn't seem to be anything similar in this game. I so much disliked that whole idea how you unlocked new blades in that game, those blade characters. It took so much enjoyment out of me when I was playing through that game. It seems like there's nothing similar in this, and I am so happy with that decision that they made when making this new Xenoblade game. So yeah, can't wait to play more of that as well. So yeah, that's all the releases from these summer months. Not huge amount of games, but I feel like all of them have been so much fun, and I still have a lot more to play. But anyway, thanks for watching and bye!